All right. Hopefully this is working, right? Doesn't look like it. Nope. Looks like it is. Okay. So, hey everyone, today I'm going to be using ChatGPT to read books way faster than humanly possible and get as much value from them as I can. So, um, I've always loved reading because I think it gets you in touch with some of the greatest minds in the entire world. But it can take way too much time. So, what I'm going to be doing instead is seeing if it's worth it to just try to use ChatGPT. There's 3 books that I've chosen to give you examples, and one is to show you how to quickly analyze books to see if they're even worth reading. The second one is to show you how to get more value from books than was even possible beforehand. And honestly, it's an unfair advantage to be able to not just use books, but to use them for almost like really cheap mentorship. And there's a way to do that with ChatGPT that just makes it insane. And the final one is I'm going to be showing you how to recall information instantly. So you're not always going to remember everything that you read. And so what I want to show today is how to get everything from books and never really forget anything. So let's start. First book is going to be Ultra Learning. So first prompt I'm going to use is so I always start with a summary. And it's super cool because it'll just break down each of the chapters. So if there's something interesting, I'll show you how to dial in on it. If there's something that isn't as interesting, you can just save it as a summary. Also, all of this I'm going to be saving prompt and response, so that way you all can access it easily. So let's see what it produced. So, like chapter 1, meta learning. I'm familiar with meta learning just because I was a nerd in high school, and this is what I thought was like the coolest thing in the world. But it really is like a superpower, right? The ability to learn faster than everyone else. So let's say chapter 1 is interesting and you want to learn more about how you can harness meta learning. So what are we doing? Ultra? No. So I'm going to ask it to elaborate on the strategies for improving your ability to learn. So you can ask it, like, I'm interested in learning how to learn faster. So I'll just ask it. So even with this, as it's going through, I'm just reading it, but like it's cool because you can see without having to read through the entire book and then hopefully get a little bit of knowledge from it. Identify your learning style. I'm not big on this, but I think the biggest thing is that you need to make sure that you're actually using information that's relevant and that you'll be able to remember. Goal setting, that's something interesting that I haven't really thought about, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Um, create a plan. Yeah, so it might be interesting to elaborate more on creating a plan and what he advises in the book as far as setting good goals. Break tasks into smaller pieces, that makes sense. Snowballing. Also 20-30 minutes, that's basically the Pomodoro technique. So familiar with that. If you don't know, it's just you do 20-30 minutes of work and then you take a 5-minute break, and it's way better for learning. Let's see, active recall. So this is actually something that's very interesting that I learned from a summary of this book is apparently active recall is like the most powerful way to learn, more so than anything. So actually, instead of reviewing note cards, instead of rereading a chapter, finish reading something, finish learning it, and then try to actually remember yourself. What do you remember? What don't you remember? And then fill in the holes, because that'll help so much. Spaced repetition, that makes sense. Seek out feedback, yeah. So let's say, honestly, I'd say these three. Create a plan, practice active recall, and seek out feedback are probably the most interesting. So what I can do is for seeking out feedback. That the author okay, self-reflection, peer feedback. Feedback tools, what is that? Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure with AI, this is only going to get better. The ability to get feedback from basically by yourself from a software. And that makes sense. Honestly, not as interesting as I had thought. Let's see what this is. How Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm breaking down this point that I think is interesting, because I would love to get feedback from people who are freaking rock stars, right? So let's see what he says. Find a mentor, workshops. Yep, that makes sense. Online communities. This is like a superpower, by the way. Maybe someday I'll make a video on how I like infiltrate online communities to speed up learning, but that would actually be a cool video idea. Conferences or events, consultations. Yep. So all of that really makes sense. Let's see this. So I'm going back up to this point above and asking it more details about setting goals. So really what I'm doing is the stuff that I find interesting or that I want to learn more about, I ask more questions about, and the rest of it, I mean, like as far as this goes, wait, which one? Like identify your learning style. You know, we do that in school, so it's not going to be as important as something like setting goals. So let's see. Measurable, achievable, deadline. So these two are interesting because normally people just start about or talk about SMART goals, but he also talks about subdividing your goals and writing them down. Okay. And that's interesting also. Right, and this is really like having a secretary or a friend read a book for you and then just give you the highlights. But also somehow they're like an expert in the field. It's weird. So let's see what more information we have. So each one should be SMART. But that's interesting because he talks about SMART goals leading to your objective, where normally people say just that big goal is enough as long as it's SMART. So that's actually really interesting. That's a really good point, and that might be something worth exploring in the future. Uh, so that's like a huge takeaway, right? Is break down your objectives into tiny SMART goals. Um, it's almost like smart steps along the way to achieving whatever. The other thing that I mentioned earlier was oh yeah. And I'm just taking notes real quick as I do this. Okay. write it down. So let's see what he talks about with writing. So far, what I remember is he says, write it down because you won't forget it and put it in an obvious place. So let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, write down in a place you'll see it. It is positive and inspiring. That's cool. See, that's cool because then every time you see it, you're excited instead of, just seeing it and then not really getting that much. So what I'm going to do is just copy all of this. And as I go through it, I'm going to highlight the things that are interesting. Okay. So really quickly, I've gotten some not just solid points from this book, but also cool action items that I can use in my own life. So I'm going to go back up to the list of chapters. And focus makes sense. Let's see. I actually want to look at that. Whoops. So he says minimize distractions, breaking tasks. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to get anything more from this, but while it's doing that, I'm just going to look at directness. And that's another awesome thing is while it's doing the thinking for you, you can keep looking for more questions to ask. Okay, so let's look at these. Eliminate distractions, obviously. Okay, Pomodoro, specific goals. Active learning strategies. That's very interesting because I don't know what those are. Oh my gosh. So this is really cool because this is something I've never thought of. Okay, so let's see this. See, and now we've almost like struck gold because this could be, you know, if you're an influencer on learning, this could be an entire video. If you're a student, this could be an entire strategy for learning better than anyone else. And these are pretty practical, like summarizing. After reading something, summarize the main points in your own words. So that's that active recall. Teaching someone else, obviously, that helps. If you've never tried that, it's like a superpower. Yeah, testing yourself, practicing. That's a good point. Practice in a real world scenario. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, I think the biggest pieces of value we get from this are real world scenarios, and then summarizing is a cool thing. So I'll actually practice summarizing with what I learned so far. So here's what I've got. See, I've already got, 9 pages of notes. So I'll try to say what I remember. So chapter 1. Oh, pressure's on. Let's see, what do I remember from what I wrote? So how about this? What if I try to remember what I've asked? So starting from the bottom, so one of the big things that we talked about is eliminating distractions. What I'm actually going to do, I love bulleted lists because you can just keep expanding them. I don't know why that's there. Eliminate distractions. So some of the things that I remember, and it's actually there we go. Chapter 1 was on meta learning. Some of the things that he mentioned was goal setting. And within goal setting, he talked about SMART goals. Oh, talks about writing. Writing goals down. Use positive. And then, what was the other cool thing about goals? Let's see. There's something else. So that's cool also, because like that's a hole that I can just instantly go back and fill. Another thing he talks about is eliminating distractions. So I didn't really go into that, but let's say set smaller goals, and you want these to be smart. You want them to be 20 to 30 minutes, and you want them to relate what else did he mention for improving focus? He said mindfulness, which that makes sense. There's active recall. See what were some of the other tools. And I'll probably do this for like another minute and then get back to working. Meta learning, goal setting, active recall. I mean, those were a lot of the cool ones. There was also like Pomodoro. Spaced repetition. But what I'm really doing right now is creating a map. So when I see spaced repetition, I already know what that means. So I don't need to elaborate it. When I see goal setting in the context of this book, I can add more information because it's interesting. Same thing over here. Eliminate distractions is pretty obvious. But something like setting smaller goals, mindfulness is obvious, but with things like that, you can really drill down on what's important. Let's take this back up. And we'll keep going for a little bit longer. Oh yeah, and that's another thing he talked about in the summary was feedback. And he mentioned we could use so like just from that one word, it'll spur on a ton of memories, but online communities, seminars, peer review. And actually, both of these are part of expert feedback. Your reviews, what were some other things? Oh yeah, like videoing yourself. What was the term he gave for that? It was like analysis or something. So and then like self-reflection. And the cool thing is goal setting also makes you better at getting feedback because you have goals to measure. So this is meta learning. It's not called meta learning, it's called ultra learning. So let's just keep going. So that looks really cool. Let me see if there's anything else more interesting than that. Feedback, attention, tuition. So okay. Yeah, right? That's exactly what I thought is intrinsic motivation is literally the biggest superpower. Like if you can focus on things longer than other people, then there's really nothing you can't do. So that's interesting. Right off the bat, that's interesting. Finding meaning in your learning. So right, that's the biggest complaint of students is when am I ever going to use this in the real world? If you answer that question before you start learning, that might help a lot. Curiosity, yeah. Okay. Um, so honestly, all of these are all of these are interesting to me, and all of these are so true. Good example of this, if you've heard about like the potter or the photography class, it's like people are always do better when they focus on doing something every day than when they focus on doing one great thing. Which I just realized I was trying to do the opposite. Gosh, I'm learning so much from this. Wow. Okay, so let's keep going. Challenge yourself. That's true. Yeah. How many times do you taper out on something just because it's no longer a challenge? Right? Like how many video games do you beat and then play again versus do you beat and then move on to the next game? Oh, whoops. Let's see. Meaning. So this is something. Honestly, I'm just going to sit in here for a second. I think all of these are cool. It's like this is a place where I really want to sit and I really want to learn. So I'm going to go ahead and just start asking questions about each of these. Please elaborate on points. So okay, so let's see, identify your why. Ask yourself what you want to learn. Set meaningful goals. And that's interesting also. So that's a cool little to do as a learning journal. Um, back to your why. Let me just read this. So this is pretty much just a normal tracker. So not much more help as far as like what it would actually look like. Okay, so let's go back up to this. Hold on. Okay. And so it's almost like a recursive learning process. Like I drill down as much as I want for this, and then I go over to this one. And like backtracking pretty much. But I love it. Okay. Ask questions. Follow your interests. Be open-minded. Embrace uncertainty. Okay, so first off, so these are the ones I think I'm interested in, but I want to actually see um, more of what they're about. Okay, so let's see what it says. That's so true. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give people is if you ask better questions before you start learning, you'll learn so much more. Be more engaged and curious about what you're learning. Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense. Like experimenting and playing with something, of course, that's going to make you better at it because you literally, or of course, that's going to make you enjoy it because you're literally having fun with it. So, one more thing. Honestly, I think that pretty much sums it up. So, here's the crazy thing it's been less than 45 minutes, and I've gotten so much from this book. I mean, literally, what, 13 pages of notes with action items, with everything else. With also, I'll be sharing this online, but I show the stuff that I'm interested in from each of these responses. So each of these I was interested in. These are the things, and then I have notes at the top. Just for like very quick things worth exploring, and then things that I want to take away from this. So that's kind of the way that I would do this. In 45 minutes, I've learned more from this book than I could by reading it, I feel like. it takes me about an hour normally to read a chapter of a book. So this is just awesome. So that's the first book. That would be how I really quickly learn from a book that I've never touched before. The next thing I want to show you, once you've learned, and the biggest thing is at this point, the decision you want to make is, do I want to read the book? Because I'd say I probably got really quickly, in an hour, I probably got like maybe 50% of my value from the book. So the next question is, do I want to spend the next 10, 20 hours reading the book, or am I happy with what I've learned? And so at that point, you can read the book, or if you're content, you'll move on to phase 2, which is to seek mentorship. So I think it was Alex Hormozy that said, maybe I'm totally misquoting, but like, knowledge isn't power, applied knowledge is power. So knowledge is almost like currency. It's not until you spend it that it actually becomes valuable. So here's how. First, you're just going to learn how to apply things really quick. And honestly, this is like getting access to some of the greatest people in the world's minds as mentors. So I'll show you this. So the second book that I was going to go through is called Show Your Work. So let's start with this. Okay, so this is a book that's been interesting for me. He also wrote the book Steal Like an Artist. And I actually just saw an interesting interview with him and Colin and Samir, where they're just talking about, he talks about his book, and I thought it was so interesting. So chapter by chapter, let's see which is interesting. So like, all of these are so good. Honestly, I feel like I could learn just from the chapter summaries, but what I really want to show you with this is so if I see something like, you don't have to be a genius. Share their work with others. Okay, so let's say book So now I'm telling ChatGPT to generate stuff as if it were the author in this book. So it's like the next step. I think mentorship starts with the book and getting the knowledge that they already have. And then the next step would be this. So let's say let's say I'm a YouTuber. And take courses. So how would chapter 3 apply? So what I'm doing here is I'm asking ChatGPT to answer my personal questions. So it's like getting mentorship from the book without having to do all the heavy cognitive lifting yourself of figuring out how this relates to your specific niche. So let's just send that off and see what it creates. I suggest sharing small about your work every day. For your particular situation, this could mean sharing a snippet of code, a brief tutorial on a specific programming concept, or a review of your coding course you recently completed. Let's say some more. Let me make sure there's spam. Yep. So 2 of these are really cool. Let me just start from the top real quick. And basically what I'm doing is I'm making this more of like a conversational so right off the bat, I'll just show you this. Taking notes, 2 cool things that I haven't thought of, right? If I want to make short videos to get people excited about coding, I don't have to be the one coding the project. Which I don't know why it took a robot for me to realize that. But the other thing that's kind of unconventional is showing your work in progress rather than showing completed projects. So I always feel like I can't show it until it's done. That's not always the case. I think these ones are pretty obvious, but they're still very valuable. Okay. let's see. Right, and you can just keep going until you literally have a step-by-step strategy on what you want to do. I don't really think that's that helpful. See, and hackathons would be cool. Okay, so let's see, teach what you know. And then this is all just about applying it to my situation. So keep creating, engage in positive self-talk. Okay, whatever. So I'm actually going to do this. Okay. So growth mindset, obviously. Seek out constructive criticism is interesting. Just as something to further explore. So 2 and 3 are interesting, so I'm just going to get it to elaborate more on that. Okay, connect with others, online communities, find a mentor. So, and really what I'm doing is getting like practical takeaways. Practical takeaways that I can instantly apply to my situation. So it's not like, it worked for this random person and maybe it'll kind of work if I twist it. It's like, no, this is the exact way. Give up. Let's see. And I'm just going to copy this prompt up here. Join online community. I keep saying in my situation to reference the previous context, but and I may have hit my limit. Let me see. Okay, we'll just keep going. I don't know if that's supposed to work, but it did. So then, like, okay, industry events. I've never heard of that. That are in my area. Okay, so what does it say here? Developer conferences. Open source meetups. So like now I can get into actual specifics. What are some would be worth? Oh, I forgot about that. So that'll be a future video is there's a way to bypass this, and I'll have to make that a future video because I haven't set it up yet. Okay, let's see. Okay. Wait, is this? Okay, final one. So just want to do one more of these, and the point of this one is to show you how to instantly recall information from a book so that you can continually make sure you're on the right path. So book that I have for this is The 4-Hour Workweek, which is one of my favorite books of all times. But it's such a practical book. There's like all these business plans. And so based on my knowledge, I'm going to be piecing together what might be relevant for me in my situation. So let me think about this. So there were challenges at the end of the 4-hour work week. Let's say I can't remember like a specific thing. Like I remember there was a DEAL acronym, which is like the entire book is a DEAL acronym. So okay, so if I wanted to know that acronym, I now instantly have that information. Define, eliminate, automate, liberate. So I do remember this from the book. Define talks about like reverse. So I'll just pull it up. When defining, how does the author talks about like working backwards. I don't know if he does. Smart. Uh, to, uh, so this is what I'm really trying to get at. And part of this is like learning to finesse prompts, right? But like if I wanted to work backwards to find my goals, I now have the exact steps. And then here's the next step. I want to see if I can do this. So So let's say like I want to work backwards, and that's the thing that I want to take away from this. So let's say 100. Let's just say online courses, right? Um, let's say 3,000. So like please. Okay, so this will be nutty if it does it. This is nutty. Launcher course. So let's see. So like, what the heck? This is absolutely insane, right? So I'm just gonna take all of this. But like, I read this book 6 years ago. For me to go back and think about how each of these steps would apply would have taken me, I basically would have had to reread the book. But now I have an entire business plan based on the book that I read that I generated in 15 minutes. Like, this is absolutely insane. So hopefully some of that helped you. I'm gonna cut out for now. I'm gonna put all these notes together and I'll probably share them online. So look forward to posting again. Thanks for watching.